So when it comes to learning 3D, some questions do pop up more than others. And one of these questions is how many hours per day should I actually practice 3D? Now, short answer here is that the hours don't really matter, because if your reason for practicing or creating any project is unclear from the very start, the results you're going to get from that practice are going to be unclear too. So even if you're spending 12 hours a day practicing, and there's no real guarantee that you're actually going to get the results you want in those time-based sessions. So hours don't really matter if you keep repeating the same mistakes in your practice, and then you end up fighting these mistakes every single time when you find yourself, let's say, in the middle of your projects. And I would often hear from beginner artists, let's say from 6 months to maybe a year and a half in their progress, that they would say that they're practicing maybe 8 to 12 hours a day, but they're still struggling with the same problems months later, or that they're not seeing the progress they would like to see. And that's simply because the core reason behind each work session is just not clearly defined. So if you're working without knowing what you're specifically trying to improve, you're just burning that time and burning your energy for nothing really. And I understand that this can be frustrating, and you work hard and you still don't get the results you want. And this is not really a discipline issue, so that you need to kind of be more focused, be more productive and not. It's more with the effort not being tied to what you're actually trying to improve. And here's an example. There's going to be a difference between practicing 3D modeling as a general term and practicing robotic joints because you have problems visualizing how these joints are going to connect to the robots you want to create. So the first one, again, is a very general, vague term, and the second one is more targeted practice focused on reaching a specific goal. So again, there's going to be a difference between practicing topology in general and wanting a simplest topology workflow possible so you can actually focus solely on the design you want. So again, one version of that practice can leave you stuck in that endless practice cycle, but the other version is actually aimed at achieving a specific and a very clear goal. So it's all about being very intentional on which part of your workflow is slowing you down, isolating that part of the workflow, understanding why it's slowing you down, and then drilling it out until it becomes, let's say, as natural as just holding a pencil. And here's another thing about long practice sessions that have no unified or defined goal. They are endless. But with a clear practice goal, you're not limited by time. Your only metric is whether your workflow got more efficient or your goal was actually reached. If your only metric or if your only measurement is in time, how much time you spend practicing, in 12 hours, you can easily get tired. You can stop seeing mistakes and just your eyes get actually adjusted to the mistakes that you're making so that tomorrow you have actually more work to do. And then you just start pushing regardless of whatever you're working on just to hit that 12-hour limit. And you may feel productive, but your results also may not really show it. And here's another example. I could spend, let's say, 3 months learning all the Blender tools, but if I still have no idea where I would use those tools, it will never feel like I'm actually learning enough to start something on my own. There's always going to be new content coming out, and there's always going to be something new to learn, and I'm always going to have that fear of missing out that new plugin, that new thing, without ever trying to implement any of that, without ever trying to actually create something of it. And then it's going to feel like 6 months later, you're just consuming content, but you're not actually creating nothing out of it. So I also notice in myself, for example, if I start drawing something just to draw something, I'm never satisfied with the results just because I know that those results are, just that, something. They're nothing specific. But if I limit myself, let's say, to just one idea, one reference type, one reference style, and one project that actually has a grounded purpose, then the workflow becomes faster and it's also more intentional. And this is why also I would stop worrying about, let's say, which software is better and just start getting more comfortable with the process itself. So then whatever I decide to create, I'm just going to be fine dealing with absolutely any single challenge that comes along the way. And many people are going to also say, and I'm going to see it in my comments too, that sub-D feels hard, that it's inefficient, that it's this or that. And this is exactly why, because there are just too many challenges to solve at once. And you need to kind of like be more strategic about which challenges you want to actually solve. Because while you're trying to be creative your brain is burning 80% of its energy just remembering either where the tools are or how to deal with topology complexity, for example. And naturally, then you have a situation where you have that high cognitive load of just too many decisions or too many technical decisions blocking your design thinking. And this is where that properly structured practice based on a specific goals can actually significantly increase the rate at which you improve. And goal being here, just to give you an example, let's say you're gonna say, I noticed that I struggle with even spread in the middle of my projects, so I have to address that barrier. Also, I noticed that I struggle to connect objects or to set a proper blockout for the designs I want, or I struggle with creative, let's say cohesive design language, despite my strong technical skills. So these are workflow challenges that are going to give you the basis on which you can actually channel your practice. So each of these can become individual practice session. So if I would need to kind of combine everything here in one lesson, I would just say that time on its own doesn't guarantee or doesn't actually create any progress, but intentional problem-defined practice does. This is what actually is going to move you forward. So also maybe small nuance here. If you do this as a hobby, maybe you have more time to explore and do whatever you want. But if you want to do this professionally, then you also need to professionalize your work too. You need to be very specific on for who you plan to work, who you see as your potential client, and in the end, you are still going to be providing them with a service. So if you know what that service is early on, you can then deconstruct and aim all your energy on creating these type of projects from the start. So you're not wasting 6 months to a year just learning topology for nothing. You actually now have a defined goal. You have a person you want to work with, studio you want to work with, clients you want to acquire. You now have a defined purpose of every single practice or every single project that you're creating. So again, if you know what that service is early on, then you can deconstruct it and aim all your energy on creating these type of projects from the start. And in that case, everything you do becomes data. So there are no bad attempts, there's no failure, so to say. And the sooner you're okay with those bad results, the faster you're going to collect useful feedback and then focus your learning on what is actually broken. So, and if I would need to isolate one more core point here, I would say that treat passive learning as your enemy. This is going to be the root of your slow progress, because without a defined goal, learning is just going to become that entertainment factor. So endless consumption. You're just constantly going to either buy courses, buy tutorials, and they're just going to lay there, and you maybe go to 1 or 2 chapters and then abandon and maybe come 2 years later, try it again, and it's still not going to stick. And to fix this, you're going to need to stop learning 3D, quote unquote, as an abstract goal, but adopt a problem-solving approach early on specific to what you want to actually do. So again, you're not going to set a goal, let's say, to learn Maya just because you think that will give you more range, because it won't. But instead set a goal to build a specific project, for example, a weapon or prop, or even a car tire, if that's the case. Just something you actually want to work on or be paid for later down the line. When you have that goal, being it project goal, being it career goal, client goal, doesn't matter, you're going to stop caring about, let's say, the perfect way to do things. Let's say you're not going to be stuck in that endless topology polishing loop, and you're going to start caring more about best ways to get things done, regardless of the method and regardless of the software. So you're not going to be tied only to, let's say, I need to do it only in Blender because of reasons, or I need to do it only in Maya because of reasons. You're going to be open to any possible way to get you there faster. So you're not going to be limited in that sense, being in just CAD or just sub-D. So again, you're going to be much more open and more free to choose, because now you have a project or goal defined work and not software limiting. And once you come to that point where you, let's say, isolated and solved enough of your workflow problems, that is when your workflow is actually going to become more and more effortless 1 month after the others. So in the end, it all comes back to that one core point. Just isolate your biggest workflow friction. And this is kind of like the case where you're going to need to find out what is slowing you down when you're trying to create a full project. So for example, is it working on dexterity and stamina? So do you actually have enough stamina to complete longer projects that maybe take 1 month or 2 months? Or do the tools feel overwhelming? Are the technical parts still slowing you down? Or do you have maybe technical strength, but now the design feels like that new challenge? And once that friction is removed, then working in ZBrush or working in SubD or working with Anatomy is going to become as intuitive as, let's say, drawing or working in CAD, for example. And I know this because I had the same struggle. So I could not really crack topology. That was for me so abstract. I could not crack modeling. I could not work in ZBrush, hard surface. That was, again, for me, very, very hard. And all of them together were also hard. But in the end, the fix was relatively simple, just making better decisions earlier about the reasons why you're choosing your practices the way you do. And best part of it all is that you can actually change all of this today. So you can actually start any project you want without actually feeling ready, because the process along the way will make you ready for any projects you want to do after that. So being it modeling a robot, modeling a weapon, or just a simple prop, the process is what matters, because in that process, maybe you're going to find out that your topology work is bad, that your maybe design is weak, and that is all a good thing, because now you're going to have a clear pain point you can actually address. So you can research that pain point, and then you're going to research and just apply those fixes immediately. And at the very end, I just want to close this with this, that the best way to slow down your progress is going to be not to implement and test what you're actually learning. And also, one important thing here about how you learn and what you position yourself is, I would say, don't really aim to become a 3D modeler or hard surface artist, because that is just way too vague and way too general. But aim to become the artist known for one thing specifically, being it design, being it technical knowledge, or just being, let's say, the best weapon artist there is. That decision alone is going to then push all your practice in that direction. So yeah, this is going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Whatever you're doing today, I hope you have a great day, and I'm gonna see you next time.